What's up guys, welcome back. What the hell was that? Was that a sports bike? No, not really, but was it a sports touring machine? Well, the reality is that was the Pan America. What are we waiting for guys? Let's get started. Let's go ahead with the review. Before we start and take the Harley Davidson Pan America for a spin on the roads in UAE, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Absolute Roadie. Your subscription really motivates me to make more interesting videos. Also press the bell icon to get notified each time when I share a new video with you guys. Let's get started. What's up everyone, welcome back. Here it is guys, that's the heart of the machine, the core part of the machine. This is the Revolution Max 1250 engine. It sounds perfectly right. It matches its real meaning of being a revolutionary engine. It is in fact a revolutionary engine. To be precise, it's a 1252cc engine producing 150 brake horsepower and throwing 128 Newton meters of torque. Now it produces 150 bhp at 8,750 RPM and throws out the peak torque at 6,750 RPM. The number speaks for itself, and when you hit the ground, you would feel that the moment you hit the throttle. But here's a catch: that entire play, that entire fun of this power, of this torque comes at the higher RPM range. So as of now, my take, yes, the power is there. You have seen it, where it goes, where it runs. The mid-range power right from 4,000 RPM until 6 out of the higher end of 8,000 RPM is super awesome. You click the throttle at 4,000 RPM and it bangs, it grows, it rushes away. The movement of speed, the acceleration right from 80 to 100 kilometers an hour all the way up to 140, 160 is like, flash of a second. That's how fast it is. For a Revolution Max engine like this one, which produces 150 horsepower and 128 Newton meters of torque, you also need an oversight, you need some power management technology, and that's what Harley Davidson has exactly done. They have introduced independent variable valve timing. What it does is it broadens your power band, it does a better torque management, which is very much required for an engine like this. Spoken about the engine, I would like to highlight one thing which I experienced across my entire ride, especially while I was in the city. The engine throws in a lot of heat on your feet, and the way the sitting position has been arranged, it's an upright sitting position, so you are almost sitting with a straight back with your feet lying here in mid controls. But if you look at the position of the exhaust, they are throwing heat directly onto your feet. So that really, is a challenging part with this bike, because within 15 minutes of you riding the bike, and if you're in city, you will see the temperature on the screen soaring up. It will go up to 100, 105, 110, 112 degrees, depending on the traffic you're riding the bike in, and the heat will keep coming onto your feet. Also, the moment when you cross the 100-degree temperature mark for the bike, the fan also kicks in. So again, even on the left side, the moment the fan starts running and try to cool the bike, the entire airflow comes back onto you. Now moving on, let's talk about the suspension which is there in this bike. Now that's a catch-22 situation for me. Just before a while I was talking about the heat which comes out from the engine, and it's not that comfortable to ride in the city. And the moment we move on to talk about suspension, Harley Davidson has introduced one of the most mind-blowing features that I've come across in a bike, and that's a feature which is typical of a city bike, and that's the adaptive ride height control. The adaptive ride height features gives you the flexibility to lower back the bike when the bike comes to a halt, and when you start, it moves back up again. You also have the option electronically to select how fast it happens. Does it happen gradually, so you have the flow, you would not even realize that it's happening, or you want it instantly, so you want to feel it how that's happening. But that's one hell of a feature. This would make this bike adaptable to people with different heights. Well, talking of the suspensions, what we have in the front is a 47mm suspension, which is inverted fork from Showa. That it has got a 7.48 inches of travel, which is phenomenal. Now, at the same time, the suspension is semi-active. What it does is, it electronically adapts itself to the riding conditions. Now we've got 4 riding modes for the bike itself. You have rain, road, sports, and you've got off-road, off-road plus. So in fact 5 modes to look at it. Plus, I'll mention about 2 custom modes as well when we will look at or cover the mode section in detail, or let's talk it about now. So along with these standard modes that you have, you also have 2 modes where you can customize them. So what you do is, in that mode, you select one of these modes. That mode becomes the base map, and then accordingly, as in when you're riding, you're going through the terrain, you can, based on your riding abilities, you can customize it. And every time when you hit the road or you go on that particular terrain, you just need to select it. You'll never forget those settings. Similarly, the suspension itself has its own 4 riding modes to select from: comfort, balance, and others. And the way the entire thing operates is, when you have a rider or a passenger with the load on the bike, it will calculate the rider weight, it will calculate the passenger weight, the load. It will also see the riding mode that you have selected for the bike. At the same time, it will look at the suspension mode that you have selected, be it comfort or be it some other. And based on that, based on your acceleration, your speed, based on your angle of lean, it will all bring that calculation into play, and then the dampening in the suspension will happen. Similar is the case with the rear suspension. I'm shooting this video in the Harley Davidson dealership Dubai, and there is a lot of renovation work which is going on. So there might be a little bit of disturbance, but I hope I should be able to work on that during my post-edit work. Well, so is the case with the rear suspension, which is a coil suspension. Again, it's a semi-active suspension, and it's an integration of that suspension with the swing arm and the frame of the body. And that's how, when you look at the suspension, the rear, the front, the engine, the riding mode and the engine, the riding mode of the suspension, your acceleration, your weight, all the entire calculation for the preload adjustments for the suspension sag, the way you're leaning on the turns, all this calculation comes into play, and that's how the suspension dynamism works. That's how the dampening in the suspension works. That's how the preload adjustments are made. So it's really nice the way it's all come across, especially coming from Harley Davidson for the first time. That's a big one. That's a big step. Enough said and spoken about the suspension. Let's move on to the brakes. In the front, we have a 4-piston caliper brake, which is radically mounted. Now, this is a Brembo brake. Another unique thing about this braking system, it's not just the calipers which are from Brembo, but even the master cylinder is from Brembo. The entire unit comes from Brembo. Now, talking of the brakes, the front brake is amazing. It does its job perfectly well. 100 on 100 to the front brake, which Harley Davidson had introduced. The entire unit works well. However, the rear brake is not that sufficient. It lags, a little bit of it. I think Harley Davidson could have improved on the rear brake as well. However, having said that, I think as a unit, the rear and the front, they do a phenomenal job. My take was that, we could have done a little better on the rear brake. Another structural component in this bike which complements the engine is its chassis. Now, if you see, the chassis runs across from the engine bay all the way to the end of the rear passenger, and the way the engine has been mounted, it lowers down the center of gravity, giving you a cruising ride across highway, and at the same time feeling you like as a one unit when you're on the curves. Well, another important, or one of the most critical parts in this bike which I would like to discuss with you is its gear. Now, this is a complete shocker. There are quite a few shockers which are coming to me with this bike, be it the performance of the engine, be it the adaptive ride height control, be it the suspensions, be it the electronics, or be it the gear shift knob. Now, it's been a perfect perfect, mixture of, the way you shift gears. The moment you hit the first gear, you get that Harley feel. Tuck. That's a noise. I mean, that's what you always expect out of a Harley. The moment you want to, change your gears, and that's what comes across with this bike as well. At the same time, all throughout, from right from first gear until second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, the transition is so smooth. There is not even a slight drop in acceleration while you're moving gears upwards. It really, comes across a lot of R&D, a lot of work, a lot of man hours have gone behind building this, complete amalgamation. Next, we'll be talking about the entire ergonomics of the bike, its features, their use, how they operate.
With the Pan America, Harley Davidson has for the first time introduced the manually adjustable clutch and brake levers. So if you've got a small hand, you can easily adjust it and bring it closer, and similarly, move it back if you have a bigger hand. These switches are more or less reachable by fingers, but to reach some of the switches like the cruise control, you have to actually move your hand to reach out to it. The switches in generally have a plasticky feel. I believe they can be improvised with later models. The indicator switch can also, be turned on and off manually. But however, when you try to turn it off manually, there is no feedback, there is no click sound, so you don't actually realize if it's turned off or not. Similarly, with the brake lever, you can adjust it with the knob. The switches are, pretty centered to navigate through the TFT screen. However, again, like I mentioned earlier, they have a plasticky feel, and some of the switches you have to really make an effort to reach them out. For example, the hazard light switch, and the adjustment on the brake lever can be easily made by turning the knob. So that's a good one. You don't have to shell out extra money this time with Harley Davidson to buy adjustable clutch and brake levers. This is the USB-C in which is provided to us. However, it only works when it is in the accessory mode. So we cannot actually use it to charge a mobile when you're on the go. And if you want to do that, you need to buy additional wires and do an external setup so that you can charge your mobile while you're on the go. With this model, we also get a steering damper and also the hand guards. Here are the foot pegs. The rubber insert from the foot pegs can be removed, and you can use it for a stronger grip when you're going off-road, and you can insert it back in when you come back onto the roads and enjoy a comfortable ride with reduced vibrations onto your shoes. These are the tubeless laced wheels. The design allows us to use tubeless tire, and in case if a spoke loosens or breaks, we can service or replace them without removing the wheel from the motorcycle or removing the tire from the motorcycle. This is the manually adjustable windshield. Now the windshield is pretty wide and big enough in size. I don't think I would need an aftermarket windshield. It's manually adjustable. Though adjusting with one hand is slightly difficult, you may end up using both your hands and you need to stop your bike. But I think it's enough. You get your work done. With the special edition, I would have preferred an electronic windshield, but still it does its job pretty well. What we see here is the frame mounted fairing. Now it doesn't protect much from the wind, but it does a pretty good job in keeping all the wires intact, which usually you will find in Harley Davidson all over the place. And it's a pretty nice cover for the headlamps as well. What I'm showing you here is the handlebar of the Pan America. Now the handlebar isn't of a standard width across. It is thin from the edges and then it widens from the middle. Now I'm telling you this so that when you buy accessories to mount on the handlebar, be careful about the mountings or the clips which you buy. Here is the battery of the Pan America. Now it is no longer under the seat of the bike, it's moved in front, and it takes some time. It takes around 15 to 20 minutes to get access to the battery. So always keep the bike on charge if you're not riding it, because in case if the battery goes down, then you would need some time and tools to reach out to the battery to jumpstart.
you're sitting over here, because the gas tank is long, you would find that your arms are getting slightly stretched. So it's a bit long, gas tank. My height is, somewhere between 5'10" and 5'11". A quick solution for me was to slightly move ahead. So, you just move half an inch ahead and you can easily give rest to your hands while you're riding on this bike. Well, at the end, all that I can say is this one is an amazing piece from Harley Davidson. It has got long way to go. It's got long miles to ride, and it is definitely the first step, and you will see improvisations. Having said that, leaving aside a couple of concerns, one around the engine heat, I think that can be managed. Some sort of heat shield can definitely help that out. So that's one of the things. But again, that comes into play only while you are in the city ride. Once you're on the highway, then it's a different thing. Then you don't, feel that heat to the extent what you feel while you're in the city. Any other concern with the bike? Some tiny tips and bits on the ergonomics, which definitely every bike improves over time. That was my take on Harley Davidson Pan America. Please do let me know in your comments, how did you find this bike? It is one hell of a bike. I really like the looks, the way it has come across. To be honest, I don't like too wide a gas tank. I somehow don't like that. But that's the way it has been always presented to us in terms of an off-road bike of this type. But Harley Davidson has done away with that, stereotype look of having a wider gas tank for an off-road bike. They made it slightly longish. Well, it's time to sign off and see you all on another bike soon. A big shout out to Harley Davidson Dubai for helping me with this bike on 2 occasions and not just one, and allowing me to ride for a few 100 kilometers as well. That's a big shout out to them. Hopefully you like the review, and if you like it, please do like, share and subscribe my channel, Absolute Roadie. See you around, guys. Bunk out. Bye.